what ancient humans actually smelled, like, here's something most people get completely wrong. Sweat doesn't smell. Seriously, fresh sweat is almost odorless. What you're actually smelling is bacteria. Billions of tiny organisms living on your skin, feeding off what your body secretes and releasing their waste products into the air. You're not smelling yourself. You're smelling what's been eating you. Now hold that thought, because when we go back to ancient humans, that's where things get really interesting. Imagine standing next to a Paleolithic hunter. The first thing that would hit you is smoke. Fire was everything back then. Warmth, cooking, protection. These people lived inside it, slept next to it, and wore animal hides that had been cured in it. That smoky, woody, slightly sweet smell would have been baked permanently into their hair and skin. That's your base smell. Then comes the animal fat. Hunters didn't just handle meat, they rubbed rendered fat directly onto their skin as a moisturizer and windbreak. Blood stayed on hands and forearms for days. And hanging above the camp, strips of meat slowly drying and aging in the open air. Think of what a fishing dock smells like on a hot afternoon. Now imagine living inside that smell permanently. Their diet made it worse. When you eat large amounts of meat, your gut produces a compound called trimethylamine as it breaks down. That compound gets pushed out through your sweat and your breath. It smells distinctly fishy and sharp. A population eating meat every single day with nothing masking it, that would have been coming off them constantly. But here's the twist. Not everything would have smelled bad. People who slept on bare earth and dug in soil all day would have been coated in something called geosmin. It's the organic compound that creates that smell after rain hits dry ground, one of the most universally loved scents humans experience. Ancient people would have carried a permanent layer of it on their skin. So yes, there was fire and fat and fermented meat, but underneath all of that wet earth, living soil, the smell of the natural world they were part of. Now here's where the science gets genuinely mind-bending. In 2023, researchers at Duke University and Paris-Saclay actually grew Neanderthal and Denisovan olfactory receptors in a lab from extracted ancient DNA and tested how they responded to different smells. The results were stunning. Neanderthals were significantly less sensitive to sweat and urine. The smell of an unwashed body barely registered for them. Their noses were literally calibrated to their world. What would be nearly unbearable to you was, to them, completely normal background noise. And it gets even more specific than that. Denisovans were 4 times more sensitive to sulfur smells than we are useful for detecting decay or danger. And they were highly tuned to the smell of honey, which makes perfect sense for a forager. Evolution didn't just shape what their bodies smelled like, it shaped what their brains noticed. There's also a genetic layer most people have never heard of. Most East Asians carry a variant of a gene called ABCC11 that essentially switches off a key chemical in sweat that bacteria feed on. Around 98% of Europeans carry the version that produces strong body odor. Only about 2% of Europeans have the low odor variant. This mutation appeared roughly 2,000 generations ago, likely as an adaptation to cold climates. What this means is that 2 groups of ancient humans living on opposite sides of the world would have smelled completely different from each other, not because of what they ate or how they lived, but because of their DNA. Ancient smell wasn't one thing. It was a continent by continent variation, shaped by thousands of years of local evolution. As civilizations formed, smell became political. Egyptians invented the first deodorants, thick oil-based paste made from cardamom, myrrh, cinnamon, and crushed herbs pressed into the armpits. Wealthy women wore scented wax cones on top of their heads that slowly melted in the heat throughout the day, releasing fragrance as they moved. They were walking perfume diffusers. Romans bathed constantly, but don't be fooled by the reputation. Their famous bathhouses had small tubs shared by 8 to 12 people at once. They didn't use soap. Instead, they poured olive oil over their skin and scraped it off with a metal blade. Bacterial colonies stayed fully intact. Roman writers described the smell of the lower classes in vivid, unflattering detail. To smell bad was to be poor. To smell good was power. Smell had become a class signal. But here's the part we're sitting with. Before deodorant, before synthetic fragrance, your natural smell was biological data. Research shows that women are consistently drawn toward men whose natural scent reflects a different immune profile from their own, because mating with someone immunologically unlike you increases the chance of having children with stronger, broader immune systems. Your smell was a resume. It broadcasts your health, your stress levels, your diet, your genetic compatibility, silently, constantly to everyone around you. Napoleon famously wrote to Josephine asking her not to bathe before he returned home. We read that now as eccentric, but evolutionarily, it was completely rational. He wanted her biological signal, unfiltered. When we started covering all of that with antiperspirants and synthetic fragrance, we didn't just change how we smell. We went silent. For 300,000 years, every human who ever lived smelled like the unfiltered truth of their body: smoke, fat, earth, protein, rain. And to the people around them, noses built for exactly that world, it wasn't disgusting. It was just human. It was home. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload.